It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP as we see it, a syndicated weekly 1-hour show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football, and always keeping an eye on the national college football scene and more. And we'd like to welcome our co-host and producer for this show, Jacob Holcomb from Mississippi State. Hey, Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing good this morning. How are you?
Doing good, Jacob, doing good. We had the weekend with the 4 playoff games, but before we get into that, Jacob, we want to thank our sponsors, Greer's Market. You know, they have the 29 locations across Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. We have Wind Creek with the 3 locations in Alabama, Atmore, Montgomery, and Wetumpka. You could be a player and you could participate. They have quite a few amenities, the spa, the cooking school, the movies, the restaurants, and you could bring your family there as well. And we'd like to thank the Robertsdale Dental Care with Dr. Jason Northcutt right here in Robertsdale. You can dial them up, and he's a specialist in the dental field. So check out Dr. Jason Northcutt. And we also want to thank the Aloft Dallas Downtown. I'll be there for the Cotton Bowl, and I've stayed there many, many times. And Jacob, that place, the people are spectacular, so hospitable. The rooms, the boutique type hotel, Marriott property right there in the downtown heart of Dallas, Texas. I love the location. The people have excellent breakfast, the XYZ bar. They have the fitness center. So all of our sponsors, we want to thank them. And we also want to direct people to our social media platforms on Facebook, on Instagram, on the X account, and also our YouTube accounts. We broadcast all our episodes on YouTube at AP Stedham, and also for our show AP As We See It. So you want to check those social media platforms, AP Stedham and AP As We See It. But Jacob, we have to get into this playoff picture. But before we mention that, we're going to quickly mention the bowls, Jacob. We're going to mention the SEC bowls, if we can get that on the ticker, and you can see all our sponsors on the ticker as well. But we're going to start with Florida. It ended up beating Tulane. Florida beat Tulane in the end of the season on a high note. Good for Florida and Billy Napier because he was on the hot seat, as we know before. The games coming up on the 27th, we have in Fort Worth, Texas, Oklahoma versus Navy. In Fort Worth, Texas on the 27th. We also have Vanderbilt playing Georgia Tech in the Birmingham Bowl, the 27th. We have on the 27th in Memphis, Liberty Bowl, Arkansas versus Texas Tech. Las Vegas Bowl, the 27th, Texas A&M versus USC. We have on the 30th in Nashville, Music City Bowl, Missouri versus Iowa. And then we have on the 31st in Tampa, Florida, Alabama versus Michigan. And that's the ReliaQuest Bowl in Orlando, the Citrus Bowl, South Carolina versus Illinois, and the 31st in Houston, LSU versus Baylor, and in Jacksonville on the 2nd of January, Ole Miss versus Duke. And Jacob, what I would say about all these bowls, I have no idea of the outcomes because we're not sure who's going to opt out. We have no idea if they're going to have their quarterback, some of the schools. And so, and it's really not a forecast of next season, Jacob, because the roster does so fluid, right? With the transfer portal and the freshman signing and people leaving. Every team has double-digit people leaving the program. Every team. Seems.
Yeah, the transfer portal is they've got to move that window. Being right in the middle of bowl season, right before the playoff, it's just chaotic.
Yeah, I don't see how they manage, Jacob, with the hosting of the transfers. You're trying to sign the high school players, and that's the first signing period before the February, that first Wednesday, like always. You have JUCO players. You're trying to prepare for the bowl, for your college football playoff. This is serious time for head coach and his staff and how they manage. It's a good thing to have all these analysts and people that are part of the program because you just don't have the time. And so you're compartmentalizing all your thought process for each individual task.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for guys like, Starkville, like the season's
Mississippi
already
State,
over
right.
for them.
Right.
So there's no need, like, it's not as big of a deal for, it's nice for guys like us who are not going bowling because, Jeff Levy, he gets an extra little head start to really only focus on that.
Right.
But, for the people who actually had success this year, it's a little bit tougher.
It's daunting.
Yes.
It's very daunting. But anyway, so enjoy the bowls, watch your team, and like I say, I don't think it can really project for next season, but just have fun, and it's a reward for those players who stay with the program. And I tell people all the time, in business and in life, you want people around you who want to be part of your life.
Absolutely.
And the other ones, they can gracefully exit, no hard feelings.
Absolutely.
And we know that it's professional sports now on the collegiate level. And some people, if you make decisions based on money, I think sometimes you'll be unhappy. Sometimes you'll be unhappy with the decision if you base it just on the amount of money you're receiving, because you're going to receive some NIL money, but make sure the scenario, the people that you are around are compatible with your goals and your life.
Absolutely.
But anyway, Jacob, we're going to get to the SEC now. We covered the SEC. One thing that's been disappointing for me, Jacob, and I think you probably agree, but I want to hear your opinion as well. This whining, I always told people when you have this tournament style of football, it's going to morph into basketball. And we all know that the 69th and 70th team are whining about not making the NCAA Division I men's basketball, Division I women's basketball tournament. And now it's become where the 12th, 11th teams, it's controversial to some, their selection, and these other teams on the outside looking in, they're whining. But let me just hear your opinion first, Jacob. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I want to be careful here because obviously I don't want to sound biased, but there are certain SEC coaches that have kind of a not a bully pulpit, but a wannabe bully pulpit, if that makes sense.
Yes.
They like what's done is done, and there's no
Yes.
point in complaining about it. Just prepare for your game and try to be better next year because losing 3 games, I mean, that's no one's fault, but
multiple chances,
exactly.
chances, right? Jacob, let's start from the premise that Ole Miss and Alabama both beat the SEC champion, Georgia. Both teams beat the SEC champion, yet they're not in the playoffs. So you say, why? Well, how could that be? How could that be? You beat the number 2 team in the country. Well, you're Ole Miss. You stumbled twice, and I was there to cover that game against Kentucky and Lexington where they lost 20-17. They were terrible on third down. I think it was one for forever, something like that. And then you lose to LSU. It was an overtime game, I believe, down in Baton Rouge. So you have you stumbled twice. You're approaching the end of the season. You traveled to Gainesville, Florida, a coach who was on the hot seat, who got annihilated by Miami and Texas. And all you have to do is really win that game, and you lost. You went on the road and lost. Then you're Alabama. Okay, Vanderbilt, tremendous. 0 wins last year in the conference. Bowl eligible. Beat Alabama. 1-60 against the top team against the top 5, I think it was, all time in their history. And they end up beating out. Put 40 points on you. That's not luck. 40 points is not luck, correct? Put 40 points on you. So you stumble twice. You lose a good Tennessee team in Knoxville by a touchdown or so. No problem. Okay, rival school, good program. You're approaching the end of the season, just like Ole Miss. Beat Oklahoma on the road. I saw Oklahoma play. Texas destroyed them in the OU Texas Red River rivalry. Their offense was not very good. They ended up using Jackson Arnold in the Alabama game, which they did not use in the Texas game. They used Mike Hawkins Jr., the freshman right out of Dallas, Texas. Alabama scores 3 points. Scores 3 points when everything's on the line against an Oklahoma. They gave up 257 yards of rushing. Alabama didn't have 257 yards of offense. Turnovers. Jalen Monroe had his issues that day. Interception, gave him a touchdown in a short field. So here you are, both teams. No need to whine. You had multiple opportunities in the SEC to change the outcome of the playoff situation.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, And especially for Alabama, that loss to OU, who just genuinely all year had no offense. Their top 5 wide receivers, or not wide, their top 5 receivers,
Yes.
all injured.
Yes.
All of them were out.
One win in the conference, Jacob.
Yeah.
Before they played Alabama, one win, and Kentucky had the one win in the conference total the whole year. That's the only Power 4 team that they beat all year with Ole Miss. Yep. And no need for whining. It's very distasteful. It's unbecoming of those two programs. It's not the Alabama that I know to be.
That's right.
To be voicing those types of, concerns about not making the playoffs. Alabama's a program all the time, winning on the field, try to show some class. Yeah. But they're moving away from that. It seems to me, in my opinion. And then South Carolina, lost to LSU at home, lost to Ole Miss big in Columbia, and then a tight game to Alabama. They were playing well at the end, but they're looking at the entire season, Jacob, the entire season.
No, you're exactly right.
So 3 losses. We don't want to see all these teams from one conference. You have 3 losses, and then it's the eye test, the old eye test, which we know. Tennessee, good team, lost by 25 to Ohio State, annihilated. Indiana played consistently through the season, lost the one game by 23 to Ohio State. So take that. So all these people are jumping in Indiana. That was uncalled for, I believe, because they were consistent, and SMU as well. SMU was consistent through the season. They were moving the football against Penn State, but the quarterback kept giving the ball away. They had no chance. But anyway, hey, Jacob, we're ending our first segment here. We're going to have Jim Hickey, University of Georgia player, and also Chip Brown from 247 Horns, horns247.com. So we'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use groceries to go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it, and we have a very special guest, a friend of mine, Jim Hickey, former defensive lineman, University of Georgia. He's the owner and operator of Charlie's Creole Kitchen in Dallas, Texas. So if you're looking for a good meal in Dallas, right downtown, check out Charlie's Creole Kitchen. Hey, Jim, welcome to AP as we see it.
Hey, thank you, AP. Good morning.
Hey, you must be pretty happy now. Those Georgia Bulldogs won the SEC, beat Texas twice. They're sitting pretty. They're going to be playing in the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame, a team I guess they've beaten 3 times in their history. And you've probably seen maybe all of them in person, maybe not. I don't know. But what do you think about those Georgia Bulldogs, Jim?
We're pretty excited. I mean, obviously, we're coming into this game with a backup quarterback. I mean, it'd be nice if we could have Beck back. You always want your starter in there, but I think the team really rallied around this guy, and we're pretty excited about being back in New Orleans.
I think the fact that he has a couple extra weeks to prepare, I think that's going to help him. And it was all positive in that Texas game in the SEC championship. He performed well. He moved around, made some good throws. I think the Georgia people should be very hopeful because they have a defense at times that can support their offense, play complementary football.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Jim, when you saw Gunnar Stockton enter the game, did you have some fears, some emotions running through you? I'm not sure if our backup quarterback can win.
Well, you have to imagine living out here in Texas, I'm being bombarded by Texas fans, and they're very very positive and upbeat about their program. So it was really nice to get out of there with a win, and I thought the team really rallied around Gunnar, which I think says a lot about what Kirby's done there and the type of team that he's been able to build and the character that he's been able to build with this Georgia team. I think it showed through in the second half, and they were able to come out with a win.
Jim, when I watch Georgia, if I had to describe him as a running style, their running style is herky-jerky. That's how I would describe it.
Well, you have to think, even going back to my days in the 80s, Georgia's always been known for their great running backs. And I don't know what our I'd have to look at the numbers, but I don't think our running game is ranked really high
No,
this
it's
year
not.
in the SEC.
In the hundreds. Yeah, in the
Yeah.
hundreds nationally. Yeah.
Yeah, which is shocking. But they've been able to get it done when they needed to get it done. And I mean, when has Georgia ever been, had to go to another program to get their starting running back? I mean, we've always been able to kind of nurture them from the inside. But one of the things that really impressed me, and I don't know if you know this, and I don't know how many people do know it, but Trevor got up in front of the team before that SEC championship, and he told them, "This is why I came here." He didn't come to Georgia to get touches and elevate himself. He came because he wanted to be part of a winning program. And I think
Trevor.
Volumes.
Yeah, it does. And Trevor Etienne, the player who transferred from the University of Florida, one of the rivals. And Jim, we never would have saw those types of things years ago.
No.
But how do you feel about the ability for the players to transfer? You're a former player. What is your thoughts and feelings about players being able to transfer from year to year?
I think it's something positive for the players. I think there needs to be some controls around it. I mean, if you're in a situation where the coach has left or something's happened and the offense has changed and you're just not fitting in, I mean, I think it's great the kids have an opportunity to be able to look at another program. And honestly, for a lot of them, when they're done playing, you're at the end of your career and you got to go a chance to play at another school. I think what could be negative about that, but I think they need to get some controls around it. I think the fact that the coaches are having to worry about that in the midst of trying to get recruiting done, get ready for a bowl game, I think it just creates a lot of chaos. I think what I've heard Kirby say, and I think is kind of the positive, is just, hey, look, we're here with the guys that want to be here, and we're moving on, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good philosophy. I've always thought in business or in life, you want people around you that wish to be with you, and those who don't, there's the door. And
Exactly.
It's a clean separation, no hard feelings. They're making a choice, the life decision. So I don't have any hard feelings for that person, that player.
No.
Jim, how did Georgia's defense in those two Texas games, they're able to sack the quarterback 13 times? No, Georgia always had a good defense, but sacks was never one of their top categories defensively. Right. They played good defense, but right. I mean, they just annihilated that good offensive Texas line twice.
Well, I don't know if obviously he won the award, but Walker, what an unbelievable football player. And even on top of that, I've watched him interviewed a couple times. Just what an unbelievable human being. And when you got guys like that they're just, the motor gets turned up. They came ready to play when they stepped into Austin. I think they felt a little bit disrespected, and they came to play. And, it was evidenced over the weekend. I mean, look at Ohio State. I mean, who wants to play Ohio State right now after watching what they watched on Saturday, on Saturday?
No. And, Jim, I wanted to ask you about that. The SEC, they've always done very well in the NFL draft, winning national championships, Heisman trophies, all the accolades that you could want for a college football league. But this whining by the SEC, I find it very distasteful, right? Because it's morphed into. I always tell people, when you have the playoffs, it's going to morph into basketball. You're going to have that 69th team, and in this case, the 12th team, 11th team. People are complaining we should have been the 12th team, the 11th team, and this is how it is developed in this inaugural season. We're seeing. Like we're sounding like basketball coaches.
Well, AP, I think they got to figure out a way to, and I don't know how you do it, because obviously every expert on ESPN came on when Georgia went into Austin, and they all picked Texas, and they're supposedly quote unquote the experts. So right. who of us are really experts?
Yes.
We look at what we look at, we decide what we decide, but I can guarantee you, I don't think anybody in that group right now wants to play Alabama, or for that matter, South Carolina. I think
yes.
Carolina at the end of the year came on strong, that running back and the quarterback both.
Right.
But I agree with you. I mean, I love what Spurrier had to say to Kifflin. I don't know if you heard the quote.
Lane Kiffin. Right.
Yeah, when he said, when's the last time you won the SEC? 1960, what was it, 7 or 63? Yeah.
63, 62, something like that. Correct, yeah.
You want to win the SEC. I mean, bottom line, we didn't win one when I was there, and we had a chance my senior year, and we lost to Auburn. I'd give anything for that SEC championship. It means a lot.
Right. Oh yeah. But I think what my perspective is, they look at the total season. I mean, are you going to play the Alabama team that put 3 points up against Oklahoma? Or are you playing the Alabama team that beat Georgia? So how is the committee supposed to evaluate you as a team? And this is at the end of the season. Remember now, Alabama lost the second to the last game and put up 3 points against an Oklahoma team, Jim, that had one win in the conference. And then Ole Miss travels to Gainesville, Florida. And this is after they stumbled twice. And I was there to cover that Kentucky loss in Oxford. And here you are at the end of the season. You're getting multiple opportunities, and you fail. You continue to fail.
Agreed.
And then you're whining. Look at
the Giants. AP one year they were 9-7, came out of the back of the league to go on and win the Super Bowl.
Yes,
right? I mean, things happen throughout seasons. You lose games for a variety of reasons. You play on the road. You have injuries. You're dealing with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. I mean, I guess ultimately what we got to do is sit down and say, what is it we're really trying to do? SMU got in. I have a bunch of friends that played at SMU. I was extremely excited for them and for their program, but were they really one of the top 12? And I'm just asking the question. I'm not saying whether they were or not, but were they one of the top 12 teams in the country? I think they got to look at the schedule of the opponents they played, because it's one thing. Let's go back to the days of Bobby Bowden, and one of the reasons why he chose to go to the ACC, because back under that current format, he knew he only had to win. He was going to have one or two tough games all year, and there was a high probability he was going to be in the national championship conversation every season. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I would say this about SMU. I think they were consistent during the season. They were undefeated in the league, and you know how people are always throwing up Power Four. Well, they're in a Power Four conference. I know there was a change. You lost the Texas and Oklahoma, but I can't believe you want to discount that league, the Big 12, and say, well, they went undefeated. Doesn't mean anything. Now they played BYU, close game, ranked team. They lost to Clemson. Clemson was destroyed by Georgia opening the game. But
they're actually in the ACC now.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. But that's right. I'm glad you pointed that out. My error. But they're in a Power Four conference, ACC, and you're undefeated, and you're going to just totally discount the ACC. That you're telling me, oh no, it's the Power Two, Big Ten and SEC.
And that's the thing. There's never going to be a absolutely perfect. What they've done with this 12, in my opinion, has brought more of the country into the conversation, which honestly ought to be something positive for college football.
I think so.
And I agree with you. The whining needs to stop. I mean, one of the things I love about Kirby, and I'm not saying this just because I'm a Georgia guy, they had every right to have an argument to be in the conversation for the 4 teams last year, and they didn't.
No, he did not.
And you know what they did? They went and played their bowl game, and they won it, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
You have to give out rings and go on, hey, we should have been in there. It's like the chips fall where they fall.
Yeah, you have to salute him. Hey, Jim, we're going to be right back in a few minutes with AP as we see it. Jim Hickey, our guest, University of Georgia. We'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it.
I'm AP Stedham. Stay at the Aloft Dallas downtown, a Marriott Boutique Hotel within walking distance to favorite attractions, JFK Museum, American Airlines Center, Reunion Tower, and Museum District. Work out there, 24-hour fitness center, and follow up with a refreshing dip in their pool. Explore the city and return to the hotel's popular WXYZ bar to mingle over cocktails and savory bites. Call 214-761-0000 or visit www.aloftdallasdowntown.com. I'm AP Stedham with Dr. Jason Northcutt of Robertsdale Dental Care.
AP, not only do we offer basic full-service dental treatment, but I also have developed a niche within the practice where I provide comprehensive dental implant services, such as single implants, bone grafting, and full mouth reconstruction. I've been highly trained in those disciplines to offer comfortable and long-lasting solutions to major dental problems.
Come by and see Dr. Jason Northcutt at Robertsdale Dental Care.
And we're back with AP as we see it. Our special guest, Jim Hickey, former defensive lineman, University of Georgia, the proud owner of Charlie's Creole Kitchen in Dallas, Texas, 2129 Greenville Avenue. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, sir. And you can really give it a plug because you've actually been there.
Oh, it was delicious. I was there on a Saturday night. after a ball game of the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas, and I had so much fun. Everybody's so hospitable, and the food was delicious, and we got to meet for the very first time. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, definitely check it out. Charlie's Creole Kitchen in Dallas, Texas. Jim, I think it's really fun for the playoff teams to compete against opponents they rarely play against.
Right.
For instance, Georgia and Notre Dame 3 times in history, and that's from moving forward from 1980. There was a home and home series, and Georgia rarely plays a team north of the Mason-Dixon line. So now they're going to bring them down to the Sugar Bowl. So you had a chance to watch Notre Dame. Riley Leonard is the quarterback from right here in Fairhope, Alabama. What do you think about Notre Dame? Some of your initial thoughts.
Well, I actually, believe it or not, I was actually at the first game, the game they played against A&M in College Station. And I walked away from that game kind of looking at both, but again, it's hard to tell because you got to give some credit to the defense as well. But neither offense really looked that great in that game. But,
Yes.
we've now progressed to game 11. They're obviously clicking on all cylinders. I've got a friend of mine that comes into the restaurant. He went to West Point, big Army guy. I'm out in Vegas for the Raiders Broncos game. And I decided to, my buddy's Army, I'm going to put something down on Army that's just a great story. They got hammered. Obviously, Notre Dame deserves to be where they're at, and I think it's going to be a tough game for Georgia. And, one of my really good friends is Wes Pritchett, who was a starting middle linebacker for Notre Dame in '88 when they won the national championship. So, I'm excited for him. I'm excited for the game, and I'll be down there on Monday. I'm actually flying in on Monday, and I'm going to be there through Friday. So I'm excited to be. I think that the city of New Orleans means so much to Georgia over the years. 3 straight SEC championships back in the '80s, 3 straight Sugar Bowls. A gentleman actually made a comment. He was tired of going down there. 20 years later, we finally made it back in 2002. We played Florida State. I think it's going to be a great matchup, but I think Georgia's going to be ready to play. Obviously, Kirby does an excellent job getting these guys to play for each other and play together. They're going to be a tough opponent, but I think it's something that Georgia can handle. I haven't even looked, but I think the Open isn't Notre Dame favored in the.
Yeah, that game I forgot what I had written down here, but it'll be competitive. I think it's a tight ball game.
Like a 2.5 or something.
Right. So it's in that range. Correct. That is in that range for sure. But Jim, how do you like Kirby as a big game coach through the years?
Well, how many games has he lost over the last few years? Not many. In fact, Alabama.
Yeah, that's been the
Alabama. So
right.
It's been a hard one for them to get over the hump on. Other than that, he's gone through the entire SEC just undefeated, except for the loss to Ole Miss this year on the road. So
right. Once in a while, he called that fake punt against Alabama. I think that's a forgettable decision by him. I think he regrets it. Even though in the press conference I was there, they ran that play. I think every day. And it's just the fact that Justin Fields did not snap the ball quick enough. They let Alabama diagnose the play in advance, and it was. But I couldn't understand. This is only one play. Now I'm not big on disputing plays by coaches. I'd say run the play, whatever it is, run it. But it was 4th and 11. It wasn't 4th and 2, 3. It was 4th and 11. I'm thinking, my goodness, he really has confidence to run that play in the middle of the field when the game was tied. And I thought he had Alabama right where he wanted them. Actually, he would have punted and they would have the ball deep. But he was determined.
Yeah, even I'm thinking back, was it the Tech game or the Texas game that he went for 2 early in the game? And many of us in the stands were questioning the fact that mathematically it didn't make sense.
Right.
But, coaches make plays. They make calls. They don't make the plays. They make the calls. Players have to execute. We can always sit here after the fact and say, well, I'm not sure I would have done that. But if it's everybody thinks it's great. Nobody ever questions.
Yeah, no, if you succeed, what can you do? You can just look back and say, hey, I would not have made that call. He made the call. His team executed.
Correct.
And they're successful. They won the game or they pulled it out or whatever happened.
Well, it's like when we lost Alabama or when we beat Alabama up in Indianapolis, a real good Alabama friend of mine called me up the next day and he was going through all these plays and calls and plays. And AP, the whole time he's talking, thinking to myself, I'm sure glad he's having this conversation because it's the conversation you have when you lose a game.
Yes,
Because when you
yes.
win the game, nobody cares about anything
No,
except the fact
no.
that you won. So
No, the score. No, like I say, I rarely dispute a coach's call. Run it. You practice it. You called it. Run it. And execute it. Every play is designed to be a winning, positive play. So I
and
don't.
ultimately, at the end of the day, players have to make plays, and I think that's what you saw Saturday in Ohio State against Tennessee.
Yeah.
Plays got called, players executed them, and they won the game. And things went their way. So.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the day, games play themselves out. Plays play themselves out. Mistakes are made, and mistakes are made on plays. And we can always sit back as fans and second guess what should have or would have happened. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, Kirby knows his team better than we do. He's been coaching a lot longer than any of us have.
Yes.
I put my stock in him.
Oh yeah. I think these two teams, Georgia and Notre Dame, when I was at the Army Notre Dame game, Jim, in New York at Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
And what I noticed about Notre Dame is Riley Leonard. He's a good quarterback. He's a dual threat. He kind of moves around in Joe Montana fashion. He's kind of light-footed. But that running back, he can take it 100 yards, 90 yards, as you saw. I like him. I think he'd probably be a good Heisman candidate next year. But Notre Dame is the type of team I believe can drive the field on you consistently,
right,
with their running back and their passing game. I wouldn't say you're fearful of the people on the perimeter. Have good players, but no one that you totally fear. So I think, and Georgia's, I think, a similar team that they can drive the field. They have. I like Georgia's tight ends. They have some receivers at times that make plays. Running backs, I mean, they've had trouble. They were ranked 100 and something in the nation, which you and I, if we were sitting here a year ago, we would say that can't happen. There's no way Georgia would be ranked in the hundreds because Kirby Smart loves to run the football. But I think they're similar type of teams in that regard. Good defenses, aggressive defenses. So I'm looking for a really competitive game. These 4 games over the weekend. The closest one was 10 points, Indiana and Notre Dame, and that was 27-3 at one point.
Right.
But I was very disappointed in people immediately questioning Indiana, and they ended up over the weekend with the closest margin of the loss, 10 points, where everybody else was. Clemson was beaten by 14. I mean, Tennessee was annihilated by Ohio State. Indiana only lost by 23, and Tennessee lost by 25. And Indiana was consistent through the season. They beat a Michigan team that was able to beat Ohio State. But I just found that right away people jumped on Indiana. I mean, they're once again in a Power 4 conference, and you're totally dismissing their record. But I don't know. But Jim, I want to ask you one thing about the conference. We're in the last couple of minutes. The SEC this year, what did you think overall? To me, it was the most competitive it's been in some time.
I would agree. I mean, who could have guessed? I mean, it's like week to week, there was nobody really dominating the conference this year, which has to be exciting for everybody, because I think when you've got one team like Alabama or Georgia that's just completely annihilating the conference, people love to pull for their schools, and I think it's exciting week from week to week when you know you're going to have a competitive game and anybody can win.
Yes, I think so. And who could have ever projected some of these scores? And this is the first time, Jim, that I think you've really seen the bottom of the league upset people at the top. I can't recall a year when you had so many multiple upsets from the bottom upsetting the top. And we're in the last minute, Jim.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I enjoyed, going back to your Indiana reference, and the same thing with Vanderbilt. What did Vanderbilt do? Same thing Georgia Tech did. They went out and got a coach. My buddy Wes Pritchett's son's playing for Georgia Tech, and Wes loves the coach, right? And when you see that of what's going on within the program, and especially in the current environment with the NIL and with the transfer portal, it's still being able to build that team that cares about each other and goes out and fights for each other. And I really like that quarterback for Vanderbilt.
Yes.
And I really like the coach. Obviously they're not going to have the level of talent that a Georgia or Alabama is going to have, but they're still able to come together as a team and go out and upset somebody like Alabama. What a huge win for Vanderbilt, the program.
Greatest in the history. And my goodness, Jim, they took Texas to a 3-point game.
Yes.
Missouri double overtime. They're in a bowl after having zero wins in the conference. They made a bowl this year and had the greatest win in history of the school, I think, was against Alabama and challenged these other teams in the SEC. Hey, Jim, we want to thank you so much. Jim Hickey of Charlie's Creole Kitchen in 2129 Greenville Avenue, Dallas, Texas. Check him out. Excellent restaurant. Jim's there a lot of times. You get to talk some college football, which I know people love. So we'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. I'm AP Stedham with Dr. Jason Northcutt of Robertsdale Dental Care.
AP, not only do we offer basic full-service dental treatment, but I also have developed a niche within the practice where I provide comprehensive dental implant services, such as single implants, bone grafting, and full mouth reconstruction. I've been highly trained in those disciplines to offer comfortable and long-lasting solutions to major dental problems.
Come by and see Dr. Jason Northcutt at Robertsdale Dental Care.
And we're back with AP as we see it. And our very special guest is Chip Brown from Horns 247. He's the Texas Longhorns expert. Hey, Chip, welcome to AP as we see it. Really appreciate it.
Hey, you got it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Appreciate it. Hey, Chip, Texas Longhorns, they competed mightily in Darrell Royal Stadium on Saturday night against the Clemson Tigers out of the ACC. They ran the ball effectively, and they look like a team that could be playing for a championship, possibly.
Yeah, their defense has been national championship caliber all season. Credit to Cade Klubnik of Clemson for getting hot there in the third quarter and leading those back-to-back touchdown drives, cutting a 31-10 deficit to 31-24, making things interesting before Jaden Blue ran for a 77-yard touchdown. And so the Texas defense, which has been, there were two big fourth down stops, including a 4th and goal from the one. And, this defense, they've got the Thorpe Award winner in Jahdae Barron. No one even throws to his side anymore. They've got a, lightning fast linebacker in Anthony Hill, number 0, but he's certainly no 0. And then offensively, I thought Quinn Ewers looked comfortable, and, he's starting to hit his deep ball, 4 of 7 on passes, 20 plus yards the last 2 games. And that really opens up this offense. And they've got to figure out 4th down. They went for it 4 times. They only made it once. That's what allowed Clemson back into the game. But
yes,
I think you saw some positive signs from this Texas offense that they might be ready for prime time.
Chip, my concern before the game was, would Texas play tight because the pressure was on them? Obviously, they were a big favorite. Clemson made it into the tournament the last couple of weeks by some losses, Miami and other teams. But that was my concern. But it seemed like Steve Sarkisian, he played fast and loose.
Yeah, he does a good job of getting his teams ready for the big moment. They went up to Michigan, got off to a fast start, put Michigan away. They were up 24-3 at halftime. And that's what they did in this game. Got up 28-10 at halftime and looked like they were, cruising. But then they, had those failed 4th downs and that allowed Cade Klubnik and Clemson, they were not going to go quietly. I think they're going to be really good next year, by the way. If you look at the fact that Cade Klubnik comes back and he's got all those now freshman receivers, they look really, really talented. So I think Clemson's a team to watch. But I do think the Texas offense, really Quinn Ewers, he's been fighting injuries He had an oblique strain that he suffered in game 3. And then he had an ankle injury that he suffered against Kentucky in November. And it looks like he's worked his way through those injuries and is starting to look like the big game Quinn Ewers that we saw at Alabama last year in a 10-point win in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, he's an accurate passer. He moves well in the pocket. He can't really run away from somebody, but he can escape people with his deft footwork. The receivers are good. I like your tight end. I love the name of the running back. Blue. I love it. I love that name for a running back from University of Texas. It just has a melodical sound to it. But Chip, I wanted to ask you about Texas. They played consistent through the year, but the 2 times they were really challenged by a team, Georgia, they weren't able to win the game, and it was the offensive line gave up the 13 sacks. Why do you think that happened? Was it just a matchup issue?
Yeah, that's a tough matchup for Texas, and I don't think Steve Sarkisian he's got to figure it out if they play again, because Kirby Smart, his defense penetrates, they get upfield, they're not reading and reacting, they're just going. And once they get you on your heels, once you're in negative down and distances, they bring the heat, and they do a great job of identifying where they should bring the heat. I think Steve Sarkisian thought he had the running game, in better shape in the second meeting. And honestly, Texas moved the ball. They did not finish drives. So they were in the red zone 3 times. Not once did they come away with a touchdown. They came away with 2 field goals. That's not going to get it done against Georgia. And if they hit, 2 field goals, they win the game, but they didn't. So they've got to figure that out.
Chip, what is the dynamic for Steve Sarkisian when he wants to substitute Arch Manning?
Yeah, I don't know right now.
I was trying to figure it out myself.
The Arch Manning package looked rough against Clemson. Against Texas A&M, he ran for a 15-yard touchdown. Against Georgia, he ran for 5 yards. In this Clemson game, it was kind of a mess. And, they put him under center, which he's never done, on their last failed 4th down attempt. And he didn't get the snap cleanly. They had a backup center in. And so it was kind of a mess in the Clemson game, but Arch Manning is a talented dude. So I know that's part of what, if Texas plays Georgia again, I think Sarkisian knows he's got to have more of Arch Manning, because the teams that Georgia has struggled against have been teams with mobile quarterbacks. Jalen Milroe, Haynes King. Arch Manning can do some of those things. So we'll see. Sark's usually an adept play caller and innovator. Didn't look so good against Clemson.
No, for sure. Chip, have you had a chance to watch Arizona State? I think it's very impressive because they were picked last. A young coach in that conference, the Big 12, made it to the championship. Cam Skattebo is a bowling ball. He's very difficult to tackle, and the quarterback, the transfer, he plays very well, just enough in the passing game to give them some balance. But what do you think about Arizona State facing Texas?
Yeah, I think Arizona State's a great story. I mean, they've clearly galvanized, behind Kenny Dillingham. And what's interesting in this game is there are 7 former Longhorns on the Arizona State roster, including Xavier Alford, who's their first team All Big 12 safety, who is their second leading tackler. He's got 2 interceptions. And then they've got a defensive tackle who rotates in named Zach Swanson, who went viral last week, saying that when he met with Texas coaches after being there 2 years, he was here in 2022 and 2023. he said they told him, you're not going to play here. If you want to go to school here, you might as well quit football. This is what he said. So that went viral, and I'm sure it'll add a nuance to this game. But there is some familiarity between these two teams. What Arizona State does really well running the football, Texas's defense does really well in stopping. So it'll be interesting. It'll come down a lot to Sam Levitt, their redshirt freshman quarterback who can run around. He's a tough guy.
Yeah.
See if he took good notes from Cade Klubnik.
Hey, Chip, I would say two things. Less homework for you, knowing the 7 players, and also the fear factor. There's not as much when they have 7 former Longhorns on that team. What's going to be the key for Texas? The obvious stopping Cam Skattebo. What do you think some of the keys for Texas? And they're going back to Atlanta and about the last minute and a half here.
Yeah, I think I don't know how many Texas fans are going to make this trip after having just been there for the SEC championship and hoping, obviously, to get to the national championship, which is also in Atlanta. But look, this is a game where Texas's defense, which has been outstanding all year, needs to come up big. And then just, if Quinn Ewers is in rhythm like he's been,
yes,
and I think they're really hard to beat because they have weapons. You mentioned Gunnar Helm, their 6'6" tight end. They've got speed on the outside. And they've got, Jaden Blue, who's one of the fastest running backs in the country. They've got a lot of parts to their offense that you have to defend, and Arizona State has some young corners.
Hey, Chip, we want to thank you very much. People can find Chip Brown at Horns 247. And he does a great job through the years. If something's happening in Texas, he's the first phone call. You got to reach out to his website and check him out. So, Chip, I know you're going to enjoy they're trying to get back to Dallas. I know you're waiting to get back to Dallas for that Cotton Bowl. That would be quite a scene when Texas gets back to the Cotton Bowl. That would be something.
Yeah. Oh, Texas fans they'll mob the Jerry Jones A&T Cowboys Stadium against either Oregon or Ohio State. So yeah, they'll be there in mass for that one.
Okay, we want to thank our sponsors, and we'll be back next week for another episode of AP As We See It. Thank you, Chip Brown, Horns 247. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next week with AP As We See It. Bye-bye now.
I'm AP Stedham. Stay at the Aloft Dallas downtown, a Marriott Boutique Hotel within walking distance to favorite attractions, JFK Museum, American Airlines Center, Reunion Tower, and Museum District. Work out at their 24-hour fitness center and follow up with a refreshing dip in their pool. Explore the city and return to the hotel's popular WXYZ bar to mingle over cocktails and savory bites. Call 214-761-0000 or visit www.aloftdallasdowntown.com. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.